I think we've been to once. That's owned by the review crew. Just had a nice chill session there, and then not
For some more chills.
not too stressful. And a band practice tonight.
Band
For
practice.
Christmas. What about you?
Caught up with Jess and Nirvana. And then, yeah, so they met with Sam. And then I went to, where did I go to? Went back home, and then I went back out to do some shopping because I'm having my family over for Christmas. So that's gonna be pretty hectic. And I came back down here. Yeah, which was like big dramas on the road.
On the road?
Big dramas.
What do you mean?
Oh, just traffic. You'd think it'd be okay coming here, but I think getting into Osmond Park was...
Yeah, trying to find a car park in the plaza area. Big Park.
Are we in Vic Park, Osmond Park, or Subiaco? Where the heck are we?
We're in Vic. Osmond.
Are we really?
Yeah. Osmond is like near this, on the other side of this. Up near Kings Park.
I swear to God, I get it
Yeah, Kings Park
confused
area.
all the time.
Huh?
I get it confused all the time.
Kind of similar, but not really.
What the heck was that?
It's my watch. Should probably turn that up. In casey.
So, any specific changes you'd like to make before we start?
Any specific changes? What do you mean?
You think you want us?
That's come up.
Let's come up.
To chat about. I wouldn't say so. I think just keen to what you've kind of set out, and then the riff off that.
On that outline.
Follow your lead.
Sounds good.
Follow the lead. This one's airplane mode.
Airplane mode. Yeah.
This is the photo, by the way. I don't know. Do you want me to send you the photo? Or?
Send it to me just in case he comes in and he goes, oh, would you like to...
So yeah, basically, it's from a photo from a long time ago, but you have to cut it in half.
You had to?
Yeah, like crop out the other person in the photo. From 10 years ago. Craziness.
So you don't look like a fool.
Yeah, it doesn't send the wrong messages. What in the heck is this? It's like no
Wrong message to who?
To the congregation.
Okay.
No, I don't know. Where are you?
Should we give this a start?
Yeah. Okay,
I'm gonna start recording. Wait, we should probably do a sound check.
hold on, let me just
Should probably get adjusted.
adjust.
Adjust my beer.
Can't even hear anything. Can you?
Talk.
Talk. But it's not coming through in my ear.
Year number 4. So
Am I?
yeah.
Test. I think that doesn't even say what number I
You
am.
plugged in.
Think so. Yeah. Seem to be. Is this plugged in?
Yeah, it should be.
Test. No?
Try that microphone. Just lean it over.
Test. No?
You can't hear any of those.
I can't hear anything. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Like through here, as I'm talking here? Oh, weird. So I need to plug it into something else? Oh, it's all the same plug-in, isn't it?
Should be. Try plugging your headphones in, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you got it?
No, I'll plug it in. Oh, there we go. Oh, Lord. Yes.
Is that loud?
It's enough reverb to last a lifetime. Oh, wow. That picked it up really well. Don't even have to be that close.
Fantastic. Well, here we
Jeez.
are. Wonderful. That's a great way to start, isn't it?
Right.
A few sound issues and all that.
Good times.
Well, we are back here in the podcasting studio with yours truly, Nathan,
Yo.
JL. And by the way, we finally found the name of Nathan's podcast name, the Philosophy.
The study of foolishness.
Study of foolishness. So, but before we jump into the craziness of that, of everything else and following up on other episodes that we've done, I thought we could probably do a bit of an update because I've been wanting to do an update. And it'll follow up on the thing. So, I took a break, and then during the break, Nathan decided to start a podcast, which is fantastic for everybody involved. And so we're collabing today.
Yeah.
For quite a few podcasts, which I'm pretty excited about.
Mm.
But so I've been on hiatus for a while now because of COVID, and you had like quite a lot of people during COVID that were saying things like, well, that was just like putting out a lot of things, it's like encouragement, and churches just jumped onto the bandwagon of the online world, and that was pretty interesting to see. Even how you gauge what engagement is online. So that was 2020, and then 2021 for other people. I think Melbourne was like 365 days, or 360 something days in lockdown.
A long time.
Of you, Melburnians. I don't know what you call somebody from Canberra, by the way. Because Western Australians are called
Lost?
Australian.
No.
Lost.
I have no idea what you call people from Canberra.
So let me know if you know. But yeah, it's been a disruption time. That was 2020. 2021 is like trying to find a new normal, which for some people, a lot of people was like they're finding new habits because they had been stuck
falling back into new.
Or falling back into old habits that are not so bad.
Yeah.
So left to our own devices with all the free time in the world, for some people, what do we resort to? I think that question was answered. So it's been disruptive.
That's a good word. Definitely.
As a time, but I didn't really want to release anything during the pandemic because I thought there's quite a lot of people that are already releasing stuff, and
Enough, yeah.
I was
Definitely.
like dealing with my own things going on, and I was like, I don't really think I've got anything worthwhile to say right now. I was, in the middle of expecting a child who's here,
Which is amazing.
little baby Samuel,
Yeah.
born in September. But yeah, the year disrupted me, and I thought, don't really have anything worth saying, so I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, it's been a bit of an echo chamber in the last couple of years. People have been kind of saying the same things, but in different ways.
Pivot.
Oh, people have been saying the same things, but in different ways.
Yeah. One of the main things, I think it was like 3 weeks into church online services, one of the words that were like everywhere was like, just lean in.
Yes.
Just gonna lean into the Holy Spirit right now. They got all 3 weeks in, and then what was that? The pivoting.
Oh
Just gotta
yeah,
pivot.
that was a bit of a buzzword, wasn't it, for a while?
I love
Just
these
pivot.
buzzwords.
Can you use this as a pivot for
Yeah.
this? And, which is fair enough. In the first year, it definitely was like, it wasn't so much as, for lack of a better word, depressing, as it and stretched out as it has felt in this 2021. 2020 was there was an unknown factor to it, so it was almost an anticipation. Oh, like we can do so much, or there's like great stuff ahead if we utilize this space. But the longer it dragged out, the more people realized that actually no, this sucks.
Yeah. What would you say was the biggest disruption for you?
Oh, for 20.
And I mean, we had it pretty good. We can't,
Yeah,
like,
we
WA
do have
was
it pretty
like
good.
6 week or something in lockdown, and then with restrictions, we were out again.
Yeah, WA is pretty isolated, so we kind of felt isolated anyway in the first place. Sorry, what was the question?
What was the biggest disruption for you?
Oh,
Name one or a few.
Since COVID? Gosh. The biggest disruption, I think, initially, was just more, like, it's been thrown around a lot, but just a disruption to the routine and kind of, because I'm naturally an introverted sort of person, so it's just like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, I'm good. Just go.
I'll go back in my cage.
Yeah. So it was a contrast, because it was like it went from like super busy, been kind of like, the weekly routine would be church, weekend, crazy, serving in some sort of way, whether it be in worship or other things, and then be work, and then other things during the week, and then Friday youth. So there was a kind of repeat and rinse sort of thing for a while, and then when the disruption actually, I found it quite refreshing in a sense, because there's certain things that I didn't have to worry about, as in like having kids in the household to look after or entertain. So it disrupted I think it just disrupted my thinking in the way of actually how do you not engage, but how do you actually bring authenticity back into faith for specifically youth kids. I think it was a good disruption for me anyway. I felt it was a good disruption to kind of like, actually these kids don't actually just want all the programs and stuff, and it actually helped us to restructure our Friday nights and how that actually turned out.
Yeah.
So it was a good pause button, but it disrupted my kind of mechanism of day-to-day life as a substitute for my own personal growth. Because you use the machine of work or the ministry to kind of get by.
Yeah, coast.
Yeah, and so it was just like, and it also made you very much more aware of the importance of connection, I guess, like authentic connection with people, because you can get by with like hi on a Sunday, and then you don't see them for another week or something.
For sure.
Unless you do leadership stuff. But yeah, so it was disruption in the sense of like reset and get back to authenticity in some way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I also have the tendency to be a procrastinator at times, so it's just like, oh, free time, chill out for a bit, which is terrible. Like, but yeah.
I think your mic's cutting in and out because you're not close enough. And you're an introvert. And your voice is saying, we're introverts. Yeah, just whisper really loudly. Why are we whispering? Anyway, sorry.
Loud noises!
Yeah, I found pretty interestingly as well, during that COVID time, like one of the things that was really interesting for me is how much I appreciated being home with Laura, and so the authenticity of relationships got brought out.
Yeah.
How much I took the opportunity to just, I don't know what it was, but we like each other.
You don't want to hope so. You got married. Hey, I like you.
Yeah, we like each other's company, and we're both introverted, probably more than
nice.
me. Until we kind of, it's not tolerate, but we like being around each other, and we don't need to be talking. We just be there. And so there was
good, hey?
yeah, there was an enormous amount of time that we were together in the house, couldn't go out much. And it was a short amount of time, but we kind of realized, oh wow, this is what's important. It's like it just hit home to a new level. Relationships are important, and having them authentically, because you can't run away. It's like 24 hours a day you're together. And we came out of that thinking, wow, if possible, if there was a way to work from home, we'd love to do that. Because that's what what was happening. And so the other thing as well I noticed in the ministry side is that with youth we had to, for lack of a better word, pivot. We had to pivot. We had to find new ways of doing things, and we couldn't just one of the things that I was talking to a friend about had to do with the fact that for a lot of churches it was like they would just go into this production mode of producing a service and chucking it online and then going, there, we've done our ministry. Like, that's not actually ministry. In a way, it's you putting a product in front of everyone. And where I looked at it is that churches got into this digital world where they're forced to go in, but in that digital world, there were already so many other more influential, far wider reaching voices that were there that would get more airtime, algorithms involved, that it was like, what are we actually doing? And so I saw it as an opportunity for evangelism, because there was, now you got as many people who are in the world as an audience, who are online as an audience, versus just the niche of people that you have there. So I saw it more as an evangelistic tool, with obviously you've created pathways to have people connect further in, beyond just this. And so there was a little bit of that mentality that I could see. It's like, let's just chuck some stuff online.
Yeah.
Be in the group chat for a little while, boom, we've done church. And you think man, I could go watch Netflix released
multiple tabs open.
Netflix released a party thing, thing where you watch a movie and you're just chatting. We could do that in a Netflix movie or whatever. So it's not necessarily that's church. So there has to be more to it, because people are already doing that. So that was the other big disruption, and I had to kind of, and I had a chat with our youth leaders as well. One of the things was that it was a really good opportunity for us to try and learn new things, because we were online. So nobody had done that before at youth this is a program. So online plus small groups kind of thing afterwards, where we would have the message. We actually had online worship and be engaging students during that. It was really interesting.
Nice.
What goes on online. But just the big opportunity that COVID came with is it actually reset things for a lot of people, where they could now imagine life a little bit differently and go, I don't have to do what I do every day.
Yeah.
Now what can I do? So one of the other things as well that I guess stopped me from even releasing any podcast episode was to do with the amount of serving that was happening in church. So I'm part of the media team in my church. Yeah. So I was making the services happen.
You're the man behind the scenes.
So, and then I saw a post sometime during the pandemic, which was like, oh, pastors, remember your media team. They're it was actually post when we were coming out 2-3 months after the lockdown. Somebody was remember your media team. You might not need them as much right now because things are opening up, but they will have gone through a lot. Like I remember all day Saturday editing into like 2-3 a.m. Sunday morning, and I'd just be like, press go live and.
Yeah, that's literally what our senior pastor did in the first couple of months.
Full on, hey.
Like every day basically I was updating youth stuff, and I would literally see him almost every day. It's like joke around about he'd joke around about like, oh, where's your bed, man? You gonna sleep over or something? The amount of time he saw me there late at night.
So true.
It's like,
hectic.
Probably should.
Yeah, and people's capacities. I was working with one of my, you know him, Jake. I was working with him, and we just saw our capacities just super stretched during that time. And some of the aftermath was that, and I think for a lot of people during the pandemic, at least at its height or its worst, there came a lot of fatigue. Some people spent a lot of time watching news, and it was like on the edge of their seat, waiting for the next announcement and the next announcement and the next. And so I think there was a lot of like being tired of waiting for more bad news. And waiting for more bad news and waiting for more bad news. Like mentally, it's just like on the edge because things are so up in the air. It's like, what is it going to be tomorrow? You know, one COVID case in WA shut the whole state down.
Can't even imagine February 5th.
For those that are listening, wherever you're listening from, February 5th, 2022 is when Western Australia decides to reopen its borders. My brother's so funny. He sent me a screenshot of a press conference where I think someone asked Mark McGowan when, like, if February 5th is a definite. And apparently he said, it's not guaranteed that it's February 5th. Like, that's only like, you know. And then I'll have to get a screenshot. Maybe I'll put it wherever I put this video. But it was to do with the fact that you know, like that's a target or something like that. But I wish I had it. But then underneath it, my brother was like, "Bro, I will fight this guy." Because he's so sick of it. It's like 80% target nationally. Western Australia's like, no, we're going to do you one better. It's like I'm not going to say it.
Yes, it's not a political podcast.
It's not a political podcast, I'm sorry. But
so many opinions.
Hey, if you want to get political, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to interview you and see where you stand.
I'd be more than willing to listen to that one.
That'd be hilarious. I just like to see how people think and how they're coming to things. So anyway, capacities were stretched. We got to a place where, like, in the aftermath of this, Jake and I were so tired. Just like, man, we need a weekend away. So we ended up like driving down to go and climb Bluff Knoll, and then took another holiday. I took another holiday with some friends. So so I was kind of thinking, like, in the post-pandemic, people feeling tired. So many people. They told me about how there are so many people that are resigning. There's a great resignation happening. People changing their course in career. Then I'm thinking, like, what is happening? Unsettled world and things like that. So I wanted to talk about what happened in the aftermath. What did it look like for you to find a new normal? Did you have to find a new normal?
Post 2020
pandemic, post 2020 into 2021.
Did I have to find a new normal?
What changed for you? If you say 2019 Nathan versus 2021-22 Nathan, one is pandemic wiser. You've gone through a global pandemic and have not died. I listened to this documentary about the Spanish flu, and it killed millions, hundreds of millions. And we're like, we're going through a pandemic and we're both alive. PTL. Praise the good Lord for that. So
the G silent.
the G. Yes, he works in the background.
Jeez. So I think. What did I learn? Is that the question? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's changed for Nathan?
What's changed for Nathan? 2019, Nathan. What was I doing? 2019. 2019, still working.
Feels like 10 years
School.
ago, doesn't it?
I was just having this discussion with Dave and Brett yesterday. Just like talking about the Christmas party that we had.
What up, Dave?
Yeah. The last Christmas party we had, and I was like, oh, was it like 2 years ago? It's like, no, man, it was the last year. I was like, oh,
Whoa.
that's honestly what it feels like.
Wow.
Feels like it's been so long since like you've been able to relax, maybe. I don't even know. That must be emotional fatigue. Oh my gosh, a compassion fatigue.
A bit of that.
I think definitely the thing that's I've learned, and maybe it's changed since pandemic. We'll go pros and cons. We'll go two ways about it. I think con definitely. I've never felt so much more aware of my anxiety and anxiousness.
Mm.
Oh, it's like ridiculous.
Wow.
And I know it's weird. Like, it's not so much. I think that I was like just picked up all of a sudden, but it's just like there's more sensitivity to it now.
Mm.
It's almost like you're like, again, that phrase echo chamber. You're in that kind of routine and haven't been able to go anywhere. Haven't been able to kind of like just take a random trip to another state to kind of just like get a different perspective. Like been in and listening and hearing in so many voices, either from church, from family, from wherever, and it's just like you're like trying to dodge and weave all these anxious feelings around, just trying to like, it's almost like it's like, oh, you should just like, the pandemic's almost like 2020 was like, oh great, there's an opportunity to come, and then 2021 is like, oh, we're not really going anywhere. and then it's like people are like, no, just move on with your life, bro, even though you can't do anything, just move on. It's like just progress, even though you in some ways you can't right now. And so it's just like, for me, I think I became more aware of the fact that my anxiety and anxiousness just around trivial things has just risen.
Yeah.
But also, I think kind of just become this being more willing to seek help as well, being more willing to seek advice, but also just like even studying, going to see a psychologist, just as part of a mental health.
For psychologists.
Yeah.
For sizzle. Yeah.
Because I think just even not because of the response to like, I've been wanting to for a while, but it's just like the pandemic's just like, yeah, bro, you need to sort out your self-talk and your past trauma and all that sort of stuff. And it's actually, in one way, that's been such a pro, because I've been able to go into a space where I can kind of just, in different ways, just deal with things and get it off my chest and process and whatever.
Yeah.
So in one way, that's been good. So I've learned definitely that, you know, I have a lot of issues, but also that.
Welcome to the team, brother.
But also it's important, I think, specifically when the pandemic happened, there were a lot of people who, I guess, felt relaxed and were able to kind of be more introverted, but also during the pandemic had, like everyone does at the beginning of January of every new year, make a resolution to kind of like be more self-aware or do whatever. But that probably lasted for maybe 3 months for some people, and then to sweep under the rug all your things and you never actually sit to deal with it. And so I think this last couple of years actually has been a space where things have actually had time to boil to the surface in a good way. And so I think, I don't know, I think I definitely learned that there's a lot of things that inform the way I think, inform the way I speak, and become just more actually excited about being more self-aware in the sense of more practicality, like reading a lot of books by different psychologists, going to a psych, reading little things like this. You can't see. It's like a little, what do you call it? Calm, like little sayings that kind of give you perspective on life. But
super.
yeah, so like just
Cards for serenity.
just giving, like, I think I've really dove into the idea of actually dealing with things more on a practical level than just trying to over spiritualize.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing I've learned about this last year, and I think also just I've hopefully become more attentive and aware of listening to God's voice, and definitely the last couple of years I've come to understand His grace and His love in so many different ways, in the sense of just like, man, yeah, how can you love humans after all the craziness that we do and craziness that we go through? Like, that whole agape thing, I don't think we fully understand what that means.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So real.
what about you?
Yeah, well, oh man, over spiritualization. That's a podcast topic. I'm just going to write that down. We should totally talk about that in the future. Yeah, so I think one of the things that I learned coming from the pandemic, I had to do putting together, making sure that what's important in life remains important, and that I don't just, one of the things that I saw a lot of, I guess, businesses and people talk about is that, I wrote it down somewhere, it's like getting back to normal. Let's just get back to normal. Like, let's get back to the way it used to be. This is almost like, oh yeah, this was the most inconvenient thing that could ever happen in our lives, having a global pandemic, which it was inconvenient. But we're, I don't know how long, 2 years in now. Yeah, it's actually 2 years in. We're 2 years in from a global shutdown, and some people are still thinking, I want to get back to normal, which will never happen again, because there is no before. Like, life will never be the same way it was in 2019. So making sure the main things remains the main things. I found that in terms of finding a new normal, one of the things that I read during my time of like a low grade burnout that I was going through, I think in late 2019, I found Karen Newhoff, who's a podcaster I listen to. He shared something that he got from like John Ortberg or someone like that. And it says, the remedy for an unsustainable pace is a more sustainable one, not time off.
Oh, interesting. That's a bit conflicting for some people.
Yeah, I was so mad. I almost like, yo bro, chill out with your clickbait crap.
Yeah.
But it was actually so true, is that if you have an unsustainable pace, you're always tired. It's not that you need time off. You need to create rhythms that actually allow you to be able to sustain your level of productivity for long periods of time. Because the body wears it, and so I had to learn to get good at boundaries. I was very much not so much of a yes man, but I said yes to things that took way more time and energy than they needed, in a way that took away from me being, as in me having enough energy to be as intentional as I wanted to be with the main things with things that were mostly the main things about. So, with time and law, for example, it's then becoming more intentional about how I would give and output my mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual energy throughout the day. So becoming more self-aware about that, and how much I had left in the tank when I leave work and get home. Because what didn't sit right with me was that for a lot of people, that well, for people that I've seen a few cases, not a lot of people because I can't speak for everyone, but I'd heard and seen a few cases where people would say the most important things in life, and if you ask quite a lot of people, the most important things in life are there are children and family.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, how are we when we get home? Tired, unengaged. You know, brothers, sisters, you think about it, right? It's like, come home from school, don't want to bar or this or that, cranky. They get our worst instead of actually our best, which is where it's meant to go. So I had to think about where to reposition my energy with regards to that, so that when I go home, my family got my best, really. Because I only have a certain amount of energy. So one of the other things I had to embrace was this thing. I think Brene Brown coined the phrase "the gift of limitations." But thinking about it in my context, it's to go. I'm not going to give 100%. Like I'm not going to be able to give 100% at work, and then have 100% left for home. I don't have 50,000%. You know, and you get it, and no, I tell you, I'm human. I can't do that, and so the things I then said yes to. I had to say yes to what I could say yes to, and then manage my energy during that space anyway to give what I could as best as I could, but still reserve the best. The very, very best for home.
Yeah. Was that difficult in the first time?
I think that the joy of at first it was, because there's a little bit of people pleasing in me, and I can see that.
Yeah. So.
And so it was one of those things I was like, and I still suck at it at the moment. I'm still learning with it, but I've become more and more. I've elevated more and more what I know at the soul level and my spirit level is soul fulfilling, and that is becoming more important than pleasing some. 50 years from now, I'm not going to be married to anybody else. Like, it's going to be Laura that I'm going to be married to. God willing that none of us die. I'm not going to be somebody else's dad. I'm going to be my son's dad. And so if I miss moments that I could have been there for, one of the ways that got brought home is that through pandemic, like doing all this stuff in youth ministry, and then just this year in 2021, we saw our young people, like probably the biggest turnover I've ever seen in our youth ministry before. Like something like 90% of our young people that are with us now were not with us at the beginning of the year. Were not with us in the middle of this year.
Oh, wow.
Right. 5 years from now, they might remember something I said, but they'll be living their life. Hopefully, all the instructions that we've had has empowered them to become the best that God has called them to. But man, those Friday nights I sacrifice that I'm missing bedtime with little Samuel. And so I can't take that back, and I get it. So it's those things in life, right? It's those things in life where it's not going to mean as much to someone else as much as it would mean to my son or my wife. So, and I get that for the parts of ministries that you necessarily have to be away from your family for or you have to work during the day, you'll miss time. So there is a sacrifice at both levels. So I had to become really good at boundaries and discuss even more with Laura what it is we're willing to say yes to and no to, given where we're at, and even before Samuel came. And also having healthy hobbies. Hobbies and homies. Hobbies. That was the other thing that I learned that I needed to have healthy hobbies, because ministry is so engaging that you can be at home and be thinking about youth kids what needs to happen Friday, what needs to happen Sunday.
Mm.
And so I needed to have a hobby that would be taking my entire attention, that I would enjoy. So that's why I took up photography.
Yeah.
It's because I was like, I need to be doing something that will require a lot of my attention. Otherwise, I can do something, and still in the background I'm thinking of other things, which is not good for. That's not resting. That's not, you know. So those are some of the things that I learned in this pandemic, and beyond, and I'm implementing. You know, so yeah, we'll call that an episode. And I guess what I wouldn't mind transitioning into is some of the stuff we talked about last time had to do with creativity and imagination. That's a great picture, by the way. Creativity and imagination.
Must be Canada or something.
They usually have the thing somewhere. For those of you who are only listening, we're looking at a picture of a guy walking in the mountain, and the road in the mountain, and it looks amazing. But it's on a Google Chrome cast, and we don't necessarily know where it is. So
if anyone knows where it is and can see the photo.
Yellow swagons. Yeah, so we talked a lot about creativity and imagination. There was so much. A friend of mine actually reached out to me and talked about, and she mentioned quite a few things as her mind was just like going from listening to the podcast. I wasn't even aware she listened to the podcast. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so honored you actually gave your time to listen to this stuff.
Yeah.
I would actually love to have her on because I think she has some great questions that would help, even within the church context, with how we do our, how we orchestrate and put everything together in our services and how that's serving people. That would be really helpful to think about. Anyway, but creativity and imagination and how we've kind of taken that in this past few weeks. So I sent you a few things that I guess I wanted to touch on.
Yeah, you did.
Anything new that we've discovered in the past few weeks, going from what we talked about? I ended up re-listening to the podcast we recorded. Yeah, so I wanted to touch it. Anything new? Any new info on creativity and imagination that we found in these past few weeks that we wanted to, bring to light and
Any
talk
new
about
creativity?
And then maybe we can talk about if there's been any new creative endeavors that have been part of. But in terms of imagination, I guess any new stuff would be coming from the books that you're reading. So what are you trying to do with that? What are you trying to do with your imagination?
So in the sense of like the imagination aspect of thinking, and the books you were.
Well, you're trying to influence how you think.
Yeah.
Or at least change it.
Yeah, reimagination or reimagine, rethink based off the word repent.
So any new stuff, because you're reading books, that means you must be smarter. So
no, this is becoming more aware of how dumb I am. I think one of the interesting things, just in a general sense, with I think I referenced it or talked about it earlier, was just the idea of just being more practical and over spiritualizing, especially when it came to learning and applying, I guess, the faith life or the apprenticeship to Jesus. So some of the things I've been learning, I guess, not so much specifically, but just in a general sense, some of the things I'm kind of implementing more and applying more, it's just being more deliberate in silence, I think. Recently, just even this morning, like I told you this morning, I had a lazy morning and it was just pretty chill for most of the day until coming out here. And it was just like, when I put my phone down and just lay down on the couch and just sat there, or like just laid back and just chill, and it was just like this flood of thoughts and things that came to mind, and just like being actually comfortable with the stillness, because I think for the last couple of years there's been like, yeah, great, everything's slowing down, and then people are like, oh, my thoughts are
My thoughts are here.
yeah, my thoughts are here. And it's just like, what?
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I've come to see you again. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so for me in that sense, I think it's been really good to really, I guess one thing I've been really more reimagining or rethinking is just how my relationship, in the sense, without sounding too like over spiritual, like, I guess just how am I, like as I do with friends and family, like how am I investing in that one-on-one relationship time in the quiet moments with God? And it sounds like, you know, we're about to start a sermon, but it's like
Preach.
basically, like what I've learned from reading some of the books by Dr. Caroline Leaf. I recently got given one by a friend from work. Thanks, Jess Hamilton. A book called
What up, Jess?
what's it called? The recent one by Dr. Caroline
The
Leaf.
most recent.
Yeah, I think that's the one about mess, your mental mess.
Cleaning up your mental mess.
Yeah, cleaning up your mental mess. Yeah, that one. So she gave me that one. I haven't just started it, but some of the interesting things, it's just like the first one I read on halfway through is the one about rethinking, or I can't remember how the book goes, but basically just how important and how just even how ridiculously specific God has created us. That phrase in Genesis of like in Genesis 2, I believe, just like, we'll make man in our image, and in the image of God he made male and female. Like, just that phrase of like being made in his image, being made in his likeness, I guess. There's like, you just stop at that phrase alone, or that line alone, like the power of your words, the power, like his words brought life into existence, like the universe and everything. And the power of our words as beings made in his image literally does change your brain shape and structure, the DNA. Like, it either brings life or brings death, or like just restricts it. And I think just how it just made me so much more aware of like, I like in this last year, even though last year and a bit it's been kind of great in certain ways, how we've kind of been able to engage youth and church in different ways, it's also made me more aware, like, dude, you've just been running and you actually haven't stopped to actually maybe just take time to be with your God.
Yeah, well.
It's been interesting, like I've come to be more aware of other things, but I've actually just realized, like, flip, I've been like all up here in my brain, and actually the whole body experience of just being in nature, being with God, and just stopping to listen. Like when I remember living in Fremantle before I moved, it was like midnight chats on the beach, just like looking like a super Italian, like with my hand gestures and my swearing and God and prayer and craziness. I've really had to, it's not so much reimagine, but I think just reposition, realign myself again back to what actually worked. Reposition, like I think the reimagining is not so much about trying something new, but actually like going back to the original design, if that makes sense. And like the original design, obviously what God created in Adam and Eve before the fall was perfect, and like we've got everything we need already in us, but there's this innate desire for more, because for some reason we believed a lie that you need more, you need this, you need that. You know, advertising does pretty well to kind of sell that to us. But there is that voice out there in culture that, your freedom's about you. It's you and you alone. Like, it's your truth. It's your identity. It's you know how you live will shape your future and your destiny. But yeah, no, it's not. Like, there is a reason why we're made in God's likeness. There's a reason why we're made in His image. Is because we're supposed to act and also serve and be and demonstrate love, demonstrate what He's trying to do in this world, breaking in and breaking forth that kingdom, how He wants it. And so I think for me, the idea of reimagination is just like, it's not actually about something new. It was actually just a reminder of actually realigning my thoughts, realigning my thinking with exactly what God already has been doing, and getting away from all the distractions that have actually taken me off course. Because I look back sometimes, you know, you get those notifications on Facebook about like, oh, 8 years ago you did this this day or whatever. And I look back on some of those things, I'm like, flip, this guy's convicting me. And I'm like, all right, like,
yeah, pretty radical, huh?
Yeah, it's like it's not. Yeah, every time we think reimagine or something, it's like, oh, what's the new fandangle thing? But it's like, just actually just get back on track. And go back to the original design. There's nothing wrong with the original design. We just believe the lie. And obviously, there's more depth to that than just that line. But yeah, so for me, reimagination has actually just been a reminder rather than teaching of anything too new. But like, there's new concepts and new things I'm learning from these books and being a bit more wiser for it. But it just kind of reminded me that, hey, look, God's brought you to this point through all the craziness, and look where you are now. It's not actually about you trying to seek something new. It's actually about getting back to what it actually was.
For sure.
So creativity from that has been more just trying to get back in line with that again. What I was actually passionate about before, and what I've actually always been passionate about, just young people and authenticity, and just, I don't know, just getting creative in different ways that actually inspire thinking.
Wow, that's awesome.
What about for you?
You know, I was just thinking as you were talking that, you know, going from the creation and into the fall, that, you know, Adam and Eve were sold a lie that they needed more than what they had received from God. I was just thinking when you're saying advertising, he does that really well. That I'd heard, I think it's Andy Stanley, who says you don't actually have to try really hard to sell yourself a bad idea, but as long as it's tempting enough, you don't spend 5 hours telling yourself you shouldn't eat that ice cream at midnight. You just go, I feel like ice cream. It's midnight, I'm still awake. Sounds like a good idea. And then you'll have that one that's like, probably shouldn't, but I'm gonna, you know. So it's like our nature has actually changed so that we're not necessarily wanting what's best or what is. And I mean, you know, I'm not calling eating ice cream at midnight a sin.
It's just regretful.
I'm, you know, although James would disagree with me. But if it, James, the brother of Jesus, or for those that are listening, but it's those small things that we do that we know and have a conscience that beats us up all the time, because those things are not good for us. So that it shows that our nature has changed, so that you know, in the great words of the One Republic song, writers, says, I want to do, what are the lyrics of that
Is
song?
it the I Lived one?
I was listening to that song. It was so popular.
It's probably I Lived. Counting Stars?
Yeah, it will be countless stars.
Let's have a look.
Hilarious. We're just doing a quick research here as you're listening. Yes, those are the lyrics. I feel something so right doing the wrong thing, and I feel something so wrong doing the right thing. I couldn't lie. I couldn't lie. I couldn't lie. Everything that kills me makes me feel alive. How?
You know what that reminds me of?
Yeah, what?
Paul. I don't do what I want to do.
It's classic. It's classic. Like you think about it, it's like, oh man, there is so much that is even in advertising that is just that pulls us in. Every vice, everything that you shouldn't feel good about, like it's changing and changed even more to a level of like, do what your body wants you to do what you crave, give into it, and just feel good. And the terms and conditions are you will feel bad after, but feel good. Try to make it last as long as possible, and then when you start feeling bad, feel good again. Do something else to feel good. It's like that's life. Chase good feelings as much as you can. So that's what came to mind. It's like that's our nature. We're built and we're created to want to be satisfied at the level of the soul. We don't necessarily have the nature that would lead us to that. That's why we need Jesus, because we're messed up, and He makes us new. So have I been rethinking anything, any new information these past few weeks? I think the most amount of information, I don't know if I've had any information, but the way that I've been thinking about reimagining things and things to do with creativity is that I sent you one of the things that, whoa, that was weird, that I'd been thinking about, which had to do with the fact that everything we think about is really perfect in our heads, and then when it comes out, it's never executed perfectly. And one of the, I guess, maybe I've just been telling this to myself because it makes me feel good about not having perfection in my life, is that if you get it to at least 80% of what you imagine, that would actually be really good, because it's better than 2% or nothing. Because I think a lot of creative people get to that place where they give up because things don't look out on the outside as much as well as they had looked in their brains. And I wonder how many movie directors and artists just never get up to 100% of what they imagine because it'll just never get there, and how many give up in the process and things like that. So that's been one of the things that I've been thinking about, which has allowed me to kind of give myself permission, or has given, I guess maybe I've been thinking about how I think about what I think about in terms of creating things, but what that's created is space and permission for me to not have things perfect, and then to give things a go, and to be more interested in the effort that I put into what I put my hand to, so that I am not
caught up in
the end goal of it all. So so in terms of, I'm going to jump on the next question here. In terms of creative endeavors that I've decided to take up or collab on, I'm actually going to start a new creative endeavor, which started this small, and then I connected with a friend, Dan Pinelli. I don't know if you know.
Oh yeah, no, Dan. Yeah. Amazing guy, amazing photographer.
What up, Dan?
He is a legend.
Connected with him, and because he'd had something similar inside of his head, and
really nice.
And we just like, bro, we need to get together. So we're actually in the middle of brainstorming, doing like a mini documentary.
What?
That is, and so I'm pretty excited because we're thinking about all these different ways that we can actually make it happen. And it's going to be super engaging.
Is this partly what you talked about on the way back from Roto, with tattoos and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm actually, I was thinking about doing a photo collection.
Yeah.
And Danny's been thinking about doing a video, videos to do with that. But we're kind of trying to put our minds here. So creating a file where we're going to do this, and we're thinking about all these different ways we want to approach it. So it's all still in research phase and brainstorming. But we caught up and we're like, dude, let's do this, and we're like starting to get a little bit of an idea around it. So watch this space. I'm super excited. I love working with Dan. That's been one of the things that I've decided. Okay, I'm just because I think I put it in my story or something, and then Dan was like, "Yo, let's chat." What are you talking about? So that was one of the things, is putting it out there. And so
yeah,
I'm
he's
really
super creative.
He's insanely creative. So I'm looking forward to working with him, whatever it looks like. So that's the newest creative endeavor I'm kind of taking on.
Nice.
Yeah. Any new endeavors you're taking on?
Not too much. Probably just that whole more podcast sort of stuff, listening.
Oh yeah, this is a new endeavor. How are you finding it, mate?
Literally, the only thing that's different about this is that we're actually recording it and it's in a room. I think for me it's just hey, we talk about stuff all the time and we're always talking about in deep sort of things that I always wonder about. And it's put a mic in front of it and record and see if anyone else wants to chime in. But I think I'm excited about this, but also excited about just random things that have come up. Even yesterday, I was walking through the city, just going to go meet someone to have some food. And basically just walking through, and these two random young people just came. I was like, hey, hey, so we're thinking of doing a YouTube channel soon, and we're talking to uni students and just random people about what are some of the things that you guys are listening to or what watching, and how can we kind of engage. And it's so the conversation developed more and more, and they kind of talked about the things that they might be thinking of looking into. And so one of the things that kept on talking, I was just asking so what would one of the things that you're kind of what's making you hesitate, or what's biggest fear, I guess. And I was we just want to make sure that we don't offend too many people. And it's just yeah, don't worry.
Then stay silent.
I'm well,
I'm sure we're offending somebody.
You're bound to offend someone. I was and then they asked us so how do you do that? And I was well, I actually don't care. If you care too much about people's opinion, especially around things like what we're doing now, it's you'll never do anything.
Yes.
But it's funny, the more the conversation went, it's funny actually that they both were Christians. And just trying to find that balance of speaking the truth without kind of, because I guess both of them being uni students, that whole deconstruction of your faith is already happening. And it was just interesting, it was so random and so cool, being able to now be part of that journey for them, if they end up doing it and seeing where it goes. I guess that's a cool space. I love the fact that I can get to creatively maybe just come alongside, just help and speak into that and just encourage. So for me, creativity in that sense has been pretty exciting to kind of be almost like a cheerleader and encourage and speak and share some things that I've learned from things that the last 2 years we've stuffed up on or made mistakes with online services and things like that. But yeah, so I'm excited about not only the podcast sort of things, but I think also excited about the opportunity, given that I've kind of stepped back from a few different roles recently, to kind of open up to kind of what I'm doing next year with chaplaincy at work, is that there's I think a lot more space to do sort of intentional, I guess, mentoring, doesn't sound super creative, but I think there's certain aspects of it where creativity can flow in just the way you do it, the way you approach it. Like even especially for guys, it's not like sitting. For some guys, yes, sitting over coffee chatting. For some, it's like let's go for a drive.
Yeah.
And being in nature, the creativity of asking different questions, confronting questions, or questions that make you just give you a different perspective.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of like these cards that I've gotten from these guys are like some of the questions they ask you. Like I read one recently that kind of talked about this king in 17. Oh yeah, this one. In 1775 BC, Zimri Lim was king of Mari, a city on the the banks of Euphrates. He was one of the most glamorous, wealthy, and powerful individuals of his century. He is now remembered because of a small fragment of a wall painting in which he is depicted standing next to a cow.
Wow.
So like,
that's so funny.
just like you can kind of try to build your own empire in this thing, but you might just be remembered as a little postcard on someone's wall that no one even notices. Like, so it's like I love the creativity of being able to speak and mentor to people in a different way and get them thinking more empowering questions, because that's something I started off doing when I was really, I guess, younger.
Yeah.
I remember doing just the 3 jobs that I had while I was at uni. One of them was doing a photography thing where just helping a friend set up their photo booth stuff at weddings. And this kid came by, like 5-year-old kid or something, came by, probably 10 maybe, came by and just like standing around and was like talking about how hard life was and how suffering at school and certain things, but also like he really struggled with math or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, so one of the things that I tried to think about and really kind of think deliberately about is how to construct a empowering question. So it's kind of tailor-made to a person, a situation, so to get them thinking. And so I was like, you know those clothes you're wearing, are you going to be wearing them in like 5 years' time? I was like, well, no, of course not. So if you can change your clothes, you can change your mindset towards maths, right? And so like a little thing like that, seeing the light bulb go off in his head, is like, oh, okay, I'm actually not defined by this moment right now. I think being able to be creative in that space really excites me.
Yeah.
As well as being able to talk. I like talking about thinking, so maybe one day I'll become a psychologist and be more qualified to talk about it.
Yeah, that's why the podcast is called Philosophy.
Yeah.
Because there's a bit of philosophy in it.
There's a bit of study of just the foolishness that sometimes come across, but also just discovery. It's just not taking yourself too seriously. Because there's enough people taking themselves seriously in the world. You need a bit of laughter and a bit of perspective now and then.
Well, yeah, for sure. And, you know, according to that card, whoever that king was, he probably took his wealth building so seriously, and yet today, how far down are we? Over 300 years later.
Yeah.
He's just a cow. He's just a man standing next to a cow.
I can find that photo.
That's hilarious. We'll post it somewhere. We'll post that cow somewhere.
Yeah.
Same cow. Hey, what do you call a cow in the middle of an earthquake?
No, milkshake?
Yes, sir. My little boy's got he's got these little cows that are attached to bells on his little standing frame thing.
Oh yeah, classic. Yeah.
And I'm always, as I shake them, I'm always like, look, it's milkshake. To have
He's got to grow up to be such a smart ass.
He's going to appreciate comedy. That's what he's going to appreciate, especially my dad jokes. For those of you who are connected to me personally to some level, that is all, the majority of what I post on my stories is jokes.
Yeah, he was doing dad jokes before he was a dad.
Before I was a dad.
Oh my gosh.
Good setup.
It's just a whole... I just so wanted to go down this new age way of spirituality. I was like, just projecting my thoughts.
Just projecting.
To the universe.
To the universe, yeah. The universe doesn't care. It does not care. It had no conscience. So, well, that will have offended somebody who believes in the universe as
I look
dating.
forward to your emails.
Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to touch on anyway has been to do with you wanted to chat about Romans 12 and how we think and changing our minds, because well, I actually ended up reading not too long ago, probably 3 years ago, Switch On Your Brain by Caroline Leaf, which was pretty good with on the scientific, and I'll probably have to read her updated book one. All has to do with how to change your mind, patterns of thinking about what you think about, what affects what you think about, and how there is a connection. Well, I think we're jumping to the next episode now, which is awesome, which really affects your and so she actually also did research and talked about how now
Plasticity.
about neuroplasticity, its origins. Switch On Your Brain is really interesting book and talks about the history of it, where it came from, who was a big push for it, neuroplasticity, and where scientists, I guess, stand today with regards to whether or not there's a mind and brain connection. If the brain is the mind or the mind is the brain.
Yeah, they're two different competing.
Whether or not they're different. One weird thing that I found out, I think it was probably last year, is that they have found neurons similar to what are in your brain in the walls of your heart, which means that our heart can think as well. How?
Wow.
That's something different. I think so far what it's been connected to is the reality that when you feel like as if you are having emotional pain at the heart space, like in your actual physical heart space, that is real. And that chest pain, that's connected to emotional pain. So, and the other thing is that when you feel emotional pain, your brain registers that as any other pain.
Yeah.
It doesn't know the difference.
It doesn't distinguish.
Pain is pain to the brain. So your mind actually, if you believe in your mind and brain, they're separate from one another. That then your mind creates a concept around what that pain means, which then informs your emotions,
which informs your thinking,
and therefore
you associate whatever feelings come
right?
up about a certain circumstance.
That's a simplified way of putting it, but I would say there's it's a way more complex and there's so many layers to it. But I was so surprised just to find that out. Super excited about the reality that for Caroline Leaf, she had believed for a long time that, as it says in that Romans 12 verse, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. She had believed for a long time that the mind can be changed. You can teach old dog new tricks, that kind of thing. And so she actually ended up researching that. And so a 2,000 plus year old throwaway statement in the Bible,
I'm sorry, I could already imagine someone, you said throwaway statement. I'm offended.
Some 2,000-year-old, looks like one of those things Paul is saying through his highly dense letter, has such significance today because we think that thinking is important and thinking rightly is important. And it brings hope as well for more people. But if you are a Christian, and you have been, and you read your Bible and you believe what the disciples of Jesus have written about God living among humans, then you probably always knew this, that God's process for us is to be transformed into the image of Jesus, which means we can become new. What is it Jesus says? Unless you are born again, that's that is a new process, and so we see it in the natural, that you have to learn as a child what it's like to live in the space, in the context that you are. And if you are removed from that context and into another, there is a way of thinking that works within that context that you have to acclimate to so that you can operate well in that context. Like I moved countries when I was young, and the way of thinking from where I come from is not the way of thinking of Australia. And so I had to literally be transformed within my mind so that my behavior would be different from what I was behaving like and thinking like within the context of where I came from. So
yeah, which
it's
is
already doable in the natural.
yeah, which is interesting because as you were talking, just like we're already as being made in God's image, already have that innate ability to rethink, renew, be transformed by just renewing our mind in reading the Word and prayer. But it's funny how that clashes with the cultural idea of newness or renewing or being transformed. It's the culture from, I guess, is kind of telling you that you actually have to bring something from the outside in to kind of transform you, where it's talking about the fact that you lack certain things, so you need a new car, you need the certain status, so you need certain things to kind of be new, or to be transformed, or to elevate yourself, and to be accepted, to be seen as whatever. And like you're saying, like a similar story for me is like, when my parents came here to Australia as well, like I had to change. Like the first thing, culture shock for me was like back home, it was like kind of normal to kind of just walking the streets at night to kind of like to say good night or hi to someone, and like just being nice and friendly. But coming here, it's just like people are like, no, what? Look at you weird when you
personal space. Don't invade my personal space with your words and your eyes.
Stay out of my canoe. It's interesting because being transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's one of those things. I don't know. Maybe for you it was the same to you as well. Like you kind of learned because of that Christian background that to kind of adapt accordingly to whatever situation. And I always thought it was a pastor's kid, missionary's kid sort of thing where you just, you learn to acclimatize to different cultures. But it's an inbuilt thing that we all have as Christians. It's like, what's that scripture about be in the world but not of the world? It's like, I don't know, like you just throwing it out of context there in that phrase, but the idea of actually that you actually have everything that you need within you to actually carry out what God's trying to do in those around you. And like, the whole concept of being the temple of the Holy Spirit is like wherever you step, wherever you stand, that's where the presence of God and heaven and earth meet. Is like, that's crazy to think about. So yeah, I don't know, like I think rethinking your mind or rethinking or renewing your mind is, for me, I think just remembering. It's not about, like a friend of mine once said to me, like it's not really teaching that we need, it's actually reminding.
Very good thing. Very good.
It's
very
not
true.
teaching, it's reminding we need.
Yeah, for sure. Who is it? Somebody who talks about it, but I don't know where I heard it from. I would have read a book about it, but there's this weird, really interesting thinking. I think I am reading a book about it, but that you can become so progressive in your thinking that that being progressive itself creates in you a mentality that you must not have anything that's old or deemed old within you and in your practice and in your thinking. Otherwise, you are no longer progressive, because progression has all to do with forward momentum and forward moving. And so
it also has to do with your timing, not God's.
And your timing, absolutely, and it's you focused as well. And so part of that way of thinking also has to influences how much value you place on things that are of old, depending what things that are of old look like to you. So for some people it's as old as 40, 50, 20 years ago. That is like ancient. So when it comes to even when we think about how progressive the progression of things are going, that a lot of it is actually pre-predicted and talked about in the Bible. When you say we have everything that we need, that's actually super scriptural. When Peter is writing to I think the people that were being incarcerated by Nero,
Philippines.
First Peter, he actually tells them that God has given us everything that we need to live the godly life that He's called us to. So He's blessed us with every spiritual blessing that we need in order to live the life He's called. And so there's no more that God is giving out. It's all. So when you talk about Holy Spirit being inside of us and our bodies, we are His temple now. He comes with everything. It is God. He comes with everything that we need. We have every resource that He has for us in order for us to be living the life of Christ. And so it does go against the flow of this world, which is very much you're lacking something. And man, we could break that down. I love breaking that way of thinking down. Which is like you're lacking something, and so you whatever it is you pay attention to will remind you that you are lacking something.
Attention economy.
And whatever it is that you are lacking, if you have it, then you will become more complete. Not complete, but more complete.
Enough. For now.
Enough. Because they know if you get to there, they've got another thing for you. It's like a pyramid scheme. And it's these things that then turn into idols that we devote our attention, our focus, our money, our energy to over time in pursuit of a better me. It's all me-centered. At the end of the day, it's like that's all it is. It's me-centered. So when you think about, and when you think about thinking about what you think about as you're pursuing that, and what drives you to think about what you think about as you're pursuing all of that, we are going after ourselves, but we are so small. But we are so small, and the things that we sometimes we add it so we feel more empowered, or we add it because we feel we lack. It's all kind of unraveling to show us that we are so tiny. We cannot be the center of our own lives, because our lives are meant to be a fireworks display of the greatness of God. And so if you have God at the center, that is exactly what will happen. If you have you at the center, you will see just how small you are. And that's what we do. Like, if you think about a kid who's so selfish, it's such a turn off. You're just like, well, who the heck do you think you are? It's mine. They don't share. It's like you don't want to be in the vicinity of that kid because it's so self-centered. But and that's how adults are, are living their lives these days. Cutting off important relationships, cutting off people. I saw a guy called, I will name him. He will be named. He will be named. I listen to the stuff in him that is wise. So if you don't, if you're listening to this and you're like, a 2-day-old Christian, everything from this guy that you listen to, you probably should have somebody in your life that you're in a relationship with who can tell you, who can help you on how to discern this. About I saw this post by a guy called Paul Scanlon, and he's very introverted, so extremely introverted that he's advocating introversion, and and he posted a video of himself talking about in a wider context. You would have to find the full video yourself, but he talked about how, you know, like, I haven't been to a Christmas party in this many years and I love it. Now, he's talking about how the fact that introverts don't need fixing. But that line by itself was like, okay, now, because you have people that take things to the extreme, right? It's like, oh yeah, really? Live the best life that you can. If I take that to the extreme, it would be like, oh yeah, I don't need to go to any Christmas party. But the number one thing that you actually see in the Bible, especially, you know, and so if you're a Christian listening to this guy, one of the things that you see in the Bible that's so clear, it's like the commandment. It's love others. How can you love people you're not around? Even if you're an introvert, have somebody around.
Yeah.
You must be exposed to situations that are inconvenient to you so that the love of God in you might be tested and grow in capacity. That must happen. Otherwise, we turn into it's not really a Christianized version of it, but for lack of a better word, into a Christianized version of do you. Just whatever makes you feel comfortable. That's taking what's of the world and bringing it in and going, I'm not going to Christmas parties now. In fact, you know what? There's so many people at church that are just so whack. I'm not going to be part of that community. It doesn't fit my God-given introversion.
Oh my God.
I can't stand around after church talking to people.
That kind
I
of
can't
cancels
stand, you know, like, dude, the way that we know you love God is through how you love people. You must be exposed to them.
Yeah, how are you going to find out you're introverted if you're not around people?
Well, go on an island.
Well, it just, it's funny, I'm just reminded of the scripture, I don't know exactly where it is, about do not be, I don't know if it's conformed or not be swayed by the winds of change or winds of new teaching. I think that's
that's Paul writing to Timothy. It's talking about how it's Second Timothy is talking about how there'll be people who, they'll be chasing after every new wind of teaching, but the end goal is that they would find somebody who tells them something that's gonna itch their ears or what they want to hear.
It's that Mark says phrase of the kingdom without the king. It's the idea of having the utopia that you want with all the benefits of what God will give us as being part of his kingdom and his reign and rule. But, I get to decide if I feel like I want to go to a Christmas party. I'll go to a Christmas party. If I decide, nah, it's too hard, I won't obviously use what I've just said with a grain of salt, because, don't be in situations where it's super abusive and you need to remove yourself.
Oh yeah, for sure. Don't be stupid.
Do not be
and if you do the foolish things, make sure that you have someone wise who can help you to discern.
And the only way to do that is be in community to find that out, which is less. It's funny how you think that people would want to be more in part of community. The first, at least half of 2020 was like, I just want to be in community.
Let's get back to it. And then you're back to it like, no.
I don't want to.
It was a mistake. Yeah, for sure. So I want to talk a little bit about the conformity in our world.
Conformity.
So it's
what's the definition of that, by the way?
Yeah,
let me look that up.
Yeah,
Conformity.
To conform. To confront versus to transform. Transformers. Who's your favorite Transformer?
Who's my favorite Transformer?